everybody, and even if you don't have a body. Yes, it's me, Layman Pascal, here on the Integral Stages author series, where we talk to folks about books relating to consciousness, existential development, cultural transformation, and the various edges, sources, and frontiers of human knowledge, as well as whatever lies beyond human knowledge. Today, we're exploring and jumping off from a recent book called Ending Unnecessary Suffering, which was written, probably in blood, by martial artist, author, and consciousness explorer Peter Ralston, a guy who's been extracting clear liquid from the dregs of the ancients for most of his life. Unless, of course, my mind is lying to me about that. Hi, Peter. Nice to have you here.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me. So it sounds like you've read some of my stuff anyway.
Yes, yeah. I at least grabbed a couple of phrases I liked.
Sure. Okay.
What would you say is the difference between necessary and unnecessary suffering?
Sure. That's a good place to start. Most suffering is unnecessary. So the bulk of human experience, the kind of the human condition, this whole world we live in, like you talked about culture, okay? This dominates our experience a great deal. How we think, millennia of assumptions built up from humanity over time, as culture changes, etc. But there's lots of staples there about what it is that changed over time, about what it is, be a self, etc., etc. Anyway, I'm just saying the most of our experience for most of us is unnecessary suffering. And what I mean by that is it's stuff that we create with our minds, so to speak. Say it exists in a conceptual domain, and we don't know that. We think we're simply suffering circumstance. We think we're simply suffering the environment, or what's happening, what's said, what's done. A feeling that pops up, whatever, something that comes into my mind. And I'm saying no, all of that's unnecessary. So to answer your question, the necessary suffering is also not necessary. Okay, but I'm separating those two because the whole the challenge of controlling one's mind and nervous system is big for most people. And we can control, once you understand what I'm talking about, we can control, we can actually end this, what I'm calling unnecessary suffering. Now, the necessary suffering, I'm just saying it's not necessary, but it's, like physical pain, physiological pain. It's like when you break a leg. All right, ow, I broke a leg, and I got, okay, I'm not saying, just changing how you're thinking this is going to have the pain go away. We can address that, right? We can lessen the pain, actually make it go away, but that's a different domain. And we're not going to talk about that today. All right, so how's
it's
that?
really two different classes of unnecessary suffering that are addressed in different ways.
Yes. And one is, let's just say, physiologically produced, and one is conceptually produced. And we think, seriously, because I've worked with thousands and thousands of people. I watch television. I've been all around the world and lived in different cultures, et cetera, et cetera. And people, so I'm generalizing here, but I think I'm accurate in doing so, really don't know that they are creating it. They don't know how they're creating it, etc. They think it's just something they have to suffer. And I would like to invite them to consider, nope, it's not.
It seems like there's a kind of moral element in prioritizing wisdom that alleviates suffering. And I'm curious whether you've seen that element, sort of, compassionate virtue around the alleviation of suffering, growing over the course of your life. Does it predominate now more than it used to, or has it been pretty constant the whole time?
Oh, over my lifetime?
Yeah, over your lifetime. Does it stand out to you
No,
more as a necessary orientation?
no,
No.
no, but it never has. See, I don't, I'm not moralistic in that sense. I'm not saying I don't know what morals are, et cetera, or their use and function, right? But this is not about morality. So I don't give a damn about people's morality in this case. All right. It's just what you do. Whether you find that good or bad, I don't give a shit. Okay. See, it's not about that. And people are so focused, and this is one of the probably problems, yeah, is that people are so focused or overwhelmingly focused on what can serve me and how do I get better. And, right? I mean, come on. It's like this is like self-evident for people, right? It's like, how to I achieve something, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, good. Or I'm sorry, I'm probably going too far here.
That's
Okay.
okay. And maybe moral wasn't quite the right word because it's loaded in a certain way with people's belief systems and social values and things like that. But I'm curious about, why do you care that other people have the opportunity to suffer less?
I don't.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, you know, okay, that's one answer. All right. I don't, and it doesn't really make any difference to me. It makes a difference to them, and me not suffering makes a difference to me, right? To my experience. But let me. I was working with my apprentices a few years ago, a group of apprentices, and when I work with people, I will discover things that, well, I'll discover things. Okay. Like, oh my God, you think this way. I mean, generally speaking, all of you are stuck in this reality. I did not know that, or something like that. Right. Well, one of the things that came up was the suffering thing. See, and it came sort of indirectly. And as watching how they were creating suffering in different ways. And just to make a long story short, said, this is unnecessary. You don't have to do that. You get that you're doing it, and they didn't. Say, okay. So then, boom, we start working on that until I move this whole reality from one place to another so they could get, oh, yeah, this is something I'm doing, and then stop doing it. And I saw, well, that benefited them, and in more ways than just ending the suffering. So it's like coming to grips with your own mind and what you're doing and that you're doing it, and becoming conscious of what you're doing. And most people are extremely unconscious of what they're doing. I mean, even conscious people, you know what I'm saying? People who, spiritual people, right? People who contemplate, meditate, people who believe in all sorts of spiritual, wonderful things, still incredibly unconscious of what they're actually doing. See, and they've just replaced becoming conscious with a belief system that feels good. Okay, so fine. They got a nice belief system, feels good, great. See, but they still don't know what they're doing. So, and when I'm writing a book called "Whereof One Cannot Speak." Actually, I've written it, but I'm still.
Is that from Wittgenstein?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Wittgenstein. Yes. In any case, I mean, the book isn't from him. The title is, and I thought it was a great title. So anyway, whereof one cannot speak, and in this book, out of the work I was doing with them, etc., I had this whole suffering thing, right? And like, why? Why does it occur? What's going on? What are the distinctions you need to make so that it doesn't go on? See, and primarily, what are the distinctions you need to make in your own mind that you have to become conscious of that you're doing so you can stop doing it? See, and you see again the ramifications of that are far more than just whether or not you end a little suffering here or there. Which is great. Sure, who needs the suffering, right? See, but it puts you in a different position, a much more source position in relationship to what you're doing, your own mind, etc., right? So in any case, this was in there, and it was getting incredibly long. In any case, so I pulled it out, and I thought, the people that are going to read "Whereof One Cannot Speak" are going to be a few, very few people. I know that. It's a niche world, that I cater to, right? So I don't want it stuck. I want this that could actually help people. Not that that's my mission. Okay. Now, I mean, if that were my mission, I'd be out there selling it and, with the snake oil. You know what I'm saying? See, but I don't do that. I have a lot of people who think I should, but I don't do that. All right. See, I work on telling the truth, period. You know, I don't care if it sells or not. In any case, but I did see, because, you know, I mean, I'm a human. I love humans. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why. It's just a flaw. I don't know. See, it's like, yeah. You know, come on, guys. Here, look, here. You know, this is great for me. Have some. You know. So I took that book out and made it its own book, so that people who wouldn't normally be involved in my work could benefit from it, hopefully, and we'll see. So anyway, that's how that book came to pass. I don't remember your question now, so I don't know if I'm responding to
it. So you are primarily oriented towards speaking the truth and enabling a small number of people to have some kind of different relationship, some kind of meta relationship to their own minds, because you have some flaw of wanting to help them. And out of the relationship with these people, you sort of co-enacted this suffering-oriented module of your thinking.
If you like.
Yes, I do.
I stay away from too much modeling, you know, and categorizing, because it always gets us into trouble. Because our minds are not capable of really doing it well, you know.
So what I notice in this book is a lot of it seemed to be based around your own acute awareness of the gap between social and conceptual information on the one hand, and like somatic, perceptual, experiential information on the other. And I was curious whether that's something you've always noticed, right? Have you always been skeptical about what other people say is true and about how concepts work in your mind? Or is that an awareness that emerged later through insight practices and certain breakthroughs?
Probably to some degree, and the always is a long time, you know, like always, you know what I'm saying? That'd be as far back as I can remember, at least, yeah. So no, I mean, in I've always been a bit, what do you say? Contrary, you know, like I don't, as far as I can remember, I don't just go along with the flow and, you know, accept things necessarily. But no, I was ignorant little fuck when I was a child and, you know, a teenager. I mean, I did contemplate. I didn't have it like a formal thing. I just did it spontaneously, you know, and made breakthroughs, and that made a difference. And then in the martial world, I made huge breakthroughs that made an incredible difference, you know. So I became a big fan of insight, okay, you know, and that it can really make a difference, not just a philosophical one, not just a belief system that you have to convince yourself of. I mean, you change the way you perceive reality. You change the I use the word consciousness a lot. Not everybody does, but you know what you become conscious of, like for example, the principles behind something in the martial, for example, that really make a difference. I mean, a profound difference, demonstrable difference, you know, and I've demonstrated it. Okay, see, it's the demonstrable difference. It's not just like, you know, I'm good, you know, kind of bullshit. No, I mean, it's totally different. And so, and then with the consciousness work also, you see, same thing. And but you know, like you, as you may have read, that I was 21 when I first started having what they call enlightenment experiences. Not spontaneously, I worked on it. Okay, you know, contemplation, shit like that, right? And huge, boom, 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 breakthroughs for a while. It got deeper and deeper, and now that changed everything. See, so that created, and it's very hard for people to hear who haven't had such a thing, right? The way I like to say it is it created some nothing from which to come. It's like it created a freedom from all the reality, the experience, the assumptions that we live as, you see, because it creates a contrast that isn't any of that. It's free from all of that. It's even free from time and space and shit like that. I don't like to say that because it sounds so stupid. But it's like it's just and so that helped a great deal in my work, in my studies. You see, a lot of times people think that I think people think, and it sounds to me like people think that, well, if I get enlightened, I'll know everything and everything will be resolved and solved. No, you'll know the absolute truth. That's all. You'll still be a dumb fuck if you're a dumb fuck. Okay. You know what I'm saying? See, and you'll be a little bit wiser, dumb fuck. Okay. Like that, you'll have some different perspective there. See, but then to make breakthroughs in like what mind is, what communication is, what reality is, what culture is, what self is, etc. That usually takes more work. You see, but the Enlightenment helps tremendously to do that. You see, because again, you have some freedom, some like you can get out of the context in which everybody else is trapped. You see, and then you go, oh wow, and that doesn't change that you are also trapped, okay, in the same thing everybody else is trapped, that we are trapped in, because you and I can't have this conversation without the bodies and the speaking and the language and the assumptions, etc., that create a world for us we can talk, right? See, we don't have any choice about that. Now we can have lots and lots of stupid ideas and things, that could come and go, but basically the kind of the foundation of it all, right? We're subject to, kind of like what Rumi said, I didn't come to this house of drunks on my own, and I can't leave that way. Say, I can't leave on my own accord, kind of thing. Okay, that's a little off topic, perhaps, but in any case, so even though the content of your experience might primarily remain the same. I mean, sure, some stuff can just disappear. Some ideas, some things that they're just stupid and they're dysfunctional, right? Those things can just disappear, right? And go because you recognize them as that. You see, and you don't want to keep stupid ideas around. There's no reason to. You see, if you recognize something is stupid and dysfunctional, you throw it away. Yeah. So in any case, but the content, like I am, thing, I am a person. I live in the country. I have a culture. I relate socially to people. I use this language, etc. All that stays the same. I have feelings. I have thoughts. You see, that doesn't stop as long as you don't stop. See? And there's the rub. I recommend to people they stop, but that's a different matter. Okay. We're starting to go out on a limb there. All right. When I start saying things like, you are the problem, say, and everybody wants themselves to be resolved, say, to be the solution. And I say, well, no, say, you're not going to be the solution because you're the problem. And I could go on for a few hours about that, but let's get back to suffering.
Sure. Suffering.
Well, let me say this about that then.
Yeah.
While you ponder your next.
All right.
If you imagine that you divide your experience up into is and isn't, okay? Because you seem to like that kind of stuff, right? So the is in this case. So I'm making the distinction, so I get to, say what it is. So is, in this case, is what is objective, biologically true. It exists in this moment now. I is, you is, we're experiencing is, that kind of thing, right? I breathe is. Okay, so that's the is. Now, what's the isn't? Everything else. See, the isn't is concept. You have a thought. You say, but the thought is, I just had it, right? Okay, but it's a figment of mind. It doesn't actually exist. It's not physiological. It's an activity. It's something happening. You see what I'm saying? So I'm calling that a world of isn't. Just like if you dream, right? You have a dream. When you wake up, you say, oh, the dream wasn't true. The dream didn't really exist. You say, well, in the dream it did. It's like I thought I was dreaming, but you thought it was real, right? So you thought that thing you were trying to do in the dream and the was real. And then you wake up and you go, oh, it wasn't. It was just my mind. It was just a figment of mind. It was an imagination. So if we put imagination, concept, and I want to invite us to consider concept in a much broader sense than most people do. I'm not talking about whimsical. I'm talking about pretty much the reality you're perceiving right now. Okay. In addition to the whimsical and stuff, right? So if we do imagination, thinking, etc., into the isn't category, you see, that's the isn't category. Is objective, etc. Now, what I'm claiming here in this is never causes suffering. Is real life doesn't cause suffering. Say, the wall behind you doesn't cause suffering. You see, etc. None of that causes suffering. Breathing doesn't cause suffering, right? You can have challenges, of course. I can't breathe, and you say, I'm suffering, you panic, etc. Right. But we got to notice too, or at least acknowledge that the reason you're panicking is because of something isn't applied to the is. You see, you say, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Okay, and you might be right. Okay, see? But still, it's an isn't applied to is. But most of our isn't is extremely not just social and cultural, but it's unnecessary. You don't have to do it. For future isn't. People think future is. No, where is it? Say, well, just wait, it'll come. No, it won't. Because when it comes, so-called, it's now. Okay, it's always now. It's never leaves now, and you've never left now in your entire life.
Well, I'm thinking a little bit about the, whether this is best approached as a conflation, getting the is and the isn't mixed up, or whether it's better approached as like the need for a more skillful matching between is and isn't. Like, because you could, I imagine I'm going to die and it's not true. But then if it is true and I'm like, oh, I'm going to die, in some ways, the concept and the fact have come together very nicely in that case. Is this more a problem of getting concept and experience mixed up, or of not skillfully docking them together the right way?
Both. See, and I appreciate the distinction. Now, see, the first thing that has to happen in people is they have to realize what they're doing. And so I recommend doing kind of like wholesale, is separate the is from the isn't. And saying first, just wholesale, just boom. Okay. Then recognize what's what. So, and the suffering always comes from the isn't, which is to say the suffering always comes from something your mind is doing, from your imagination, from something you're creating in your mind, right? Worry, depression, something's missing, I'm worthless, whatever. See, all these things, like loneliness. Oh, no, it's not. I am lonely. Yeah. See, without your mind adding, remember what Shakespeare said, there's nothing so good and bad that thinking makes it so, See, now that's when people confuse or conflate the thought they have as if it's real, like the wall is real. Now we had a problem. See? So if you think that I'm depressed, just like there's a wall there, there's depression here, there's nothing I'm suffering it. I don't know why I'm depressed. I can't do anything about it, whatever, blah, 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 Say, no, you're creating the depression. Oh, no, I'm not creating. Yeah, you are. See, let's take an easy one, right? Like I'm worried. Well, it's easy to show, right? I mean, you're worried because of something you think is going to happen in the future. So you have to have a scenario of something in the future, right? That's going to happen in order to worry. If you don't have that, you can't worry. Oh, but no, you can't worry. Existentially, I'm saying you can't worry. So you need it. It's like a component, right? If you have no future, you can't worry. If you have no scenario, idea, oh, my kids are going to blow up in a Holocaust, whatever, in a hurricane, whatever. You say, oh, if you don't have that scenario, if you don't have that, there's nothing to worry about, is there? Okay, stop having it. But then I'm, what? But then I won't be prepared. I'm not going to survive. Okay, good. The excuses and justifications for keeping it, keep it. Okay? They're just there to help you keep it. Throw away the excuses, throw away the justification. I mean, if you want to end suffering, see, and grasp it, something you're doing, stop doing it. And all this excuse, but it's necessary, isn't it? No, it's not. No, it's not. And you see, like, for example, with worry, right? Has your worry ever done anything except, give you ulcers? You know what I'm saying? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I need to take action. Good, then take action. Don't worry, take action. Run out there, grab your kids, pull them into the what do you call that, basement or something like that, right? Whatever it is, take action. Don't sit there and worry. You see? If there's nothing you can do, why worry? It sounds like Mad Comics. Very, very old. Very old guy. Anyway, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Somebody says, oh, my girlfriend left me. She went to California. I'm in Texas right now. So say my girlfriend left me. And it's like, oh, I'm suffering that. And I have to suffer. I say, no, you don't. Well, yeah, I do. Okay, maybe you do, like, a certain amount of grief is appropriate, but say, like, I'm missing my girlfriend. Stop. What? I can't. She's not here. I know. What is here? Well, there's a wall and breathing and me. Okay, good. Stop missing your girlfriend. See, you're doing that. Do you see what I'm saying? You're doing that. See, now you can see the resistance that's going to come up for people, right? Because we live in this world like we have no choice. Again, we make these as if they're the wall, and they're not the wall. There's something we're doing. Stop doing it. The suffering goes away. You follow? See? And also when you shift, like you talked about, the distinction of whether we do, like, complete split or we learn to marry them differently. The marrying them differently is to get in simple, right? And simple is to get this business here is like, we're into action. If you take action, basically, you do something about it, it's now is. See, you've moved it away from isn't or concept, mind, crap, to doing something. See? So I say, get in your car, drive to your girlfriend, go get her back. See, and the moment you do that, you'll stop suffering, won't you? See, you've probably suffered that one once or twice, right? I mean, most people have, right? See, and it's like, but the moment you do that, you'll stop suffering. When you get to her, maybe you'll suffer some more. but when you're taking action, you understand? See, now you're not like just conceptualizing something I'm missing. I'm doing something about it. You see the difference? Regardless of the outcome. In any case,
Are there situations in which the suffering itself is a kind of taking action? Like one example might be, so you're an artist, right? And you're trying to, or you're a scientist, you're trying to figure out some problem, right? And you're aware that your system is working on it. If you allow yourself to sort of fret and worry and like stay engaged with the dissatisfaction of the problem so that your mostly subconscious intelligence can work it out in a way that it might not work out if you sort of broke or separated from that angst. But in that case, like doing the suffering might be action.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you don't need the angst. See, like, for example, you've probably contemplated, right? You've entered some periods of contemplation, like serious, and like, because I figure if you're in this biz, you're gonna. Okay, it's like when you're contemplating, there's a problem you're trying to solve, right? So you're trying to, stop being ignorant and become conscious of something, right? Whatever it is you're doing. Now you can suffer that or not suffer that. See, the problem itself, the contemplation itself, does not create suffering. If you say, "Oh, my ass is sore," "Oh, I'm not accomplishing," "Oh, I haven't had enlightenment yet," "Oh, this is not working," "Oh, I'm not doing it." Okay, that's the isn't. You see, you don't need that. You need the focus. See, and even if you go, like that, whatever. All right, it's not suffering, really. It's like you're just going through motions, and like I'm trying hard to do something. Like if you're, I don't know, you're trying to pull a board off a building or something like that. You're working on. You're going, I'm trying to pull. You're not suffering. So you're called, working. You're maybe straining and using a lot of got it. Okay, good. I'm hoping you get it in the contemplation too. See, but it's like, I'm not calling that suffering myself.
Sure.
I'm calling that just you're doing something.
Sure.
Okay. Yes.
There, a lot of people look for the solution to their suffering in biochemical modifications, in medication, and things like that, right? Some of that could be an alternative to having an insight, having a capacity to modify their thinking and their attitudes. But in other cases, it might be that a person doesn't have the right balance of chemicals in their brain in order to be able to begin the kinds of insight that you're talking about. What do you see as the relationship between this kind of work and, like, I don't know, biochemistry, medication, all that kind of stuff? Do you think there's a certain balance of chemicals needed in order to have insights effectively at all?
I don't know. That I mean, I was a physiologist in school, university, but I don't know about these things. See, but we are talking about physiology, and again, I'm not talking about what occurs physiologically. So when somebody says, a lot of times we bandy around this business of saying being clinically depressed. I'm clinically depressed. What the fuck does that mean? I'm clinic. Well, see, what it should mean in my mind is that you have some real imbalance in the chemicals or the neurons and synapses in your brain. You're fucked up. Okay. Something is like fucking up in there. All right. Physiologically. Now I acknowledge that can happen. See, we can have brain traumas and strokes and shit. We can have stuff happen when it's like, well, fucks us up, right? Or whatever. But how many of us, get depressed? And that's not the case at all. See, and we always like to blame something outside of us. You know what I'm saying? And so you can see I'm a little old school, okay? Because I'm an old man. I mean, come on. See, but it's a different set of principles. And one is like everybody has PTSD now, right? I mean, PTSD has become so fucking common. You trip over it walking down the street. Okay. It's like, come on. We reserved that in the past for guys that we called early on shell shock. It's like, yeah, you get really fucked up because you're in war and combat. You see and hear and go through experiences that a human is bad. Okay. It kind of and screws you up. And then your brain doesn't work so well afterwards because it keeps bugging you. Okay. See, and then you can solve that too. You can solve that also. Yeah, like that. See, but now it's like a good excuse. I have problems. Oh, I must be PTSD. Post-traumatic. Oh, I had trauma in my life. Who the fuck hasn't had trauma in their life? I don't know about you, but I've had a lot. Okay. I grew up a human. And maybe I had more than my share, but Jesus Christ, it's like you're going to live in relationship to your trauma, past tense, right? Or are you going to live? Are you going to get over it? It's like like a couple of things, like let's say, I think it was Jung, one of the psychologists said, my past actually doesn't decide who I am. I do. I may be paraphrasing, but you get the point. Okay. You see, and people don't get responsible for that. Like I'm doing it now. But I had a past, and the past made me who I am today. Yeah, unfortunately. Now toss it. What? Toss it. And seriously, you won't miss it. Anyway, I could go on and on. Or like Jesus said, Jesus said, kill your parents, get rid of your parents, which, okay, obviously didn't mean really kill your parents, right? But get them out of you. Step forward as a human being at some point who's now creating life and being responsible for their own life, their own self, whatever, without being all programmed and fucked up and traumatized and, all that stuff, and a lot of that seems to start with parents, God bless them. Okay. Without the parents, you wouldn't be. So lighten up. Okay. Anyway.
Well, speaking of parents and children, you talk a little bit about make believe in this book, and it reminded me of how much research there's been lately about the role that play and playing has in maturation and understanding. And most kids seem to be pretty good at believing something without believing it too intensely, right? They can play pirates and then stop, and they can believe in Santa Claus, but later just let that go. Why don't most adults have the same capacity when it comes to their religious figures or their political views or their belief in the self? Why can't they play with it and make believe and then just let it go, the same as kids seem to be able to do?
Yeah. Well, kids can and can't. See, there's a world that kids still stuck into, right? The make-believe world, they know is make-believe because they're making it up. Okay, they know they're doing that, right? You and I did it when we were kids. You know what I'm saying? We knew that the cardboard box wasn't really a fort. You know what I'm saying? But we made it a fort or whatever. We made it like I had one of my assistants way back, right? He was talking about when we were talking about this issue. He said, "Oh yeah, I remember. We were playing a game where a certain area of the yard was molten lava." And we were like, in the trees and doing this and that, like that, whatever, pirates, whatever, and then mom walked out and she walked into the molten lava. And he said, and I like, went, oh, no, you can't do it. You're going to get hurt. Right. See? And so like for a moment there, see, it was like real for him that mom, no, it's the molten lava. See? Like he made it real because the more real you make it, the more you're living in that reality and you're having hopefully some fun, because there isn't really molten lava there. In any case, but then adults, like I did. Did you take this from the Book of Not Knowing or from?
There was a section on make believe in the Suffering book.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Anyway, so it's like I say, kittens. You ever watch kittens play when they're little kittens, right? What do? They fight a lot. Okay. They roll around, they jump, they fight, they rest, they do this stuff. And what are cats good at? Fighting. You see what I'm saying? Jumping, moving. I mean, when a cat jumps up on a table, they don't jump and then clonk on the table. They jump right on the table, right? I mean, you and I, we would clunk on the table. Okay. But they just go, whoop. It's like that. Anyway, they learn that skill as a child. And so what do humans do mostly? Conceptual. We live in a conceptual social world or a social conceptual world, say primarily. Yeah. And so what do we got to get good at? Make believe. Say concept, making shit up, believing stuff. Say, so as kids, they're playing with it. But then as they go adults, say, this is the real one, and then it stops for the most part. Yeah. See, but as kids, they're learning. They have to learn. As adults, we don't have to learn. I mean, it's nice if we do, but we don't have to. We just have to survive.
The image of a clunking cat is interesting, and it makes me think about skill versus clumsiness. And I guess one of the things people seem to learn in martial arts, but really any area of practical mastery, is that small adjustments in angle and intention and vigilance and precision make a big difference in how smoothly and effectively we get anything done. Is a lot of suffering just clumsiness?
No, ignorance.
Ignorance.
See, what you're talking about is inability, an ability or not. See, we're talking about clumsy, right? See, and the clumsy is making gross distinctions. See, what you just said, very well, was making finer distinctions. See, that's what your whole sentence was about. See, you make finer distinctions in all this stuff that's creating the relationship, and you have more skill. Okay? And the more distinctions you can make, the better, the more skill that are accurate, the more skill you have. Okay? And then if you make stuff up that isn't related to what's really occurring, you're not having a good time. Okay. See, this doesn't work. And people do that a lot, even in the martial world. See, and you get rid of all that. And that includes all the social stuff. Social stuff is no place in fighting. See? People, but learn to play the piano then. Okay. See, fighting is a different matter. Like hammering a nail with a hammer. Obviously, if you're hammering a nail, it's with a hammer. But you're hammering a nail, right? What's the social component? What's the good and bad of that? There is none. Really, you know what I'm saying? It's not a moral issue. It's a hammering a nail. You do it well or you don't do it well relative to nail and hammer and how all that works, right? Simple thing. Okay. In any case, that's a different domain than what I'm talking about in the suffering. It's not just making clumsy distinctions, it's being ignorant. So, and you can make a case, well, that's, kind of clumsy. Okay. But no, just ignorant. People have no idea. They have no clue how much we are doing within our own experience. See, now I just took it out of mind thing. Because when I say mind, a lot of times people think intellect only or talking to yourself. Those are aspects of mind, but it's far more than that. It's our experience. See, like when we shouldn't go down that road too much. But in any case, what you're doing, like in one of the books, I think it's the book of not knowing, I talk about getting my teeth drilled without Novocaine. Did you read that? Mm-hmm. Oh, you did? Okay, so that must be Book of Not Knowing then. You read the Book of Not. Okay, cool. You got that one?
I've got one on PDF and I've got one the other one in hard copy. So okay. I've got Suffering in hard copy and I've got a PDF of Not Knowing.
Okay, cool. In any case, see, people think, okay, well, you get your teeth drilled. First of all, most people are afraid of the dentist, right? That's and isn't. Okay. See, that's a future. Oh, it's going to go bad. It's going to hurt me, right? Okay. Eliminate that. Oh, and remind me to talk about the Buddhist, the Tibetan Buddhist after this piece, because it'll help. But in any case, I get and sometimes like a lot of it's really minor, See, people like, why do no? Anyway, drilling. Okay. So physiologically, there's something happening. See, and once I get like, was it over an hour drilling for a root canal thingamajigger or putting in a pin or whatever. Okay, so back here. So that was some doing. And the dentist couldn't understand, why I didn't want to do Novocaine. And he said he thought I was going to white knuckle it, and like, in other words, control and like, no. I say no pain. Why? Now, here's the kicker, and this is the reason I bring it up. Pain is a concept. See, now, wait, no, pain's not a concept. It's physiological. It's there are pain receptors and stuff like that. I know, I studied physiology. In any case, yeah, but no, pain, what you and I experience as pain, is a concept. And what I mean by that, and the reason I bring it up, is to go into experience. See, is to bring concept into something people can't fuck with. You know what I'm saying? That is not whimsical. Yeah. See? Because, you talk pain, you get people's attention here, especially drilling a tooth, right? You get people's attention. Yeah. See, in any case, no, there was no pain. It didn't hurt. Why? Because I didn't create the distinction pain. Because I know what pain is. You follow? See, now that's a big leap. I'm not expecting most of our audience to go there. I'm just pressing the envelope here so that you're not so whimsical when you're hearing me talk about concept or mind. You see, it's like there's an ingredient, the sensation, the physiological sensation is not itself painful. It's only when we add that ingredient that hurts. Ow, 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 owie, ow, ow, ow. You know that one? Then it's painful, right? See, if we don't add that ingredient, and most people have no ability to do that. So they can't find that. Where I can't do that. That's just biology. All right. Yeah. There's a lot of things in biology you don't have to do. But in any case, I'm just pressing the issue. So now back to the Tibetan Buddhists. Thanks for reminding me. Now, an experiment was done. I love this one, right? See, an experiment was done with Tibetan Buddhists who meditate all their lives. They meditated all their lives, right? They contemplate all their lives, right? They spent, controlling their mind, doing all kinds of stuff, Tibetan Buddhist. And then I think it was, what's that guy's name? Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama who set this up. He wanted to. And so they had normal people like you and I, okay? And the Tibetan Buddhists, okay? And then they would test them, and they probably had a control group. I don't know what that would be, but in any case. And they would monitor their mind, their brain waves, whatever, however it is done. And and they would make a sound and then shock them or some such, make a painful experience and watch their brainwaves. Okay. Now, normal people, and they do that repeatedly, several times, right? Now, normal people like us, say, they knew what's coming, right? Because they were told, right? And then they experienced it, and they experienced it again and again. See, so there was anxiousness before, the sound, it spiked up, the shock, the pain, it spiked up again, and then afterwards, it also spiked. So they had 3 times the amount of pain. The Tibetan Buddhists, nothing. The sound, nothing. The shock, boom, something in their brain sparked. After, nothing again. Relative to whatever the parameters were, right? See, you follow what I'm saying? See, they didn't do the isn't, okay? They stayed for whatever reason because they were trained to stay with what is. And what is? Shock. No shock. No shock to begin with. Shock. No shock. See, there's no reason to go there. No reason to create more suffering than necessary. Okay, like that. Which, and apparently, being shocked is a necessary suffering. I guess. So anyway, isn't that interesting?
So in terms of avoiding then the sort of unnecessary elements of the suffering, is it more like holding on to something, or is it more like surfing around those things when they come? Like if there's an element,
stop doing it. See, again, so you see how the way you framed it. This is a normal in our worlds, that we share. This is a normal way of thinking about things, right? Framing it, right? Like my mind does it to me, or here is something I have to get around it, or I have to deal with it in this way or that way. No, this thing that you say you have to get around or whatever, you're doing it. Say, you don't have to get around it.
It's more like ceasing to ride a bicycle or ceasing to squeeze your fist or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, stop doing it. Yeah. See, and you can't stop squeezing your fist unless you acknowledge you're squeezing your fist. Right? The first thing you have to do is squeeze your fist. Oh, I'm doing it. And you have to find where you're squeezing your fist. You see, you have to grasp, oh, I'm doing it. Oh, I'll stop that.
Now, it
And
seems like
simple like that.
when you're acknowledge that you're doing it and that it's unpleasant, that it becomes or should become pretty easy to stop doing it. But there's also this element of human psychology, which is, death drive, nihilism, masochism, suicide. Is there part or some mode of human beings that actively wants to create unnecessary suffering, that it's succeeding when it's doing that and doesn't want to stop?
Well, if there is, I can't help them. Okay. They're being successful. They're doing what they want to do. They're fucked up. I can't help. See, psychology got no use. Now, I understand that, there's a place. I know a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists, and a lot of them study with me. And the people, I'm serious. I have a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists and other people too, right? Often very creative people. But the psychologists and the psychiatrists really like what I do because I don't give a damn about psychology, you see, or psychiatry. To me, it's too limited. It's myopic. It's focusing and it's standing on too many assumptions. Hey, everything we do does, you know what I'm saying? I mean, every practice, everything that we take up, every belief system, will have too many assumptions and we have to break free from them, in my view, not just follow them. Even just look at like psychology, right? After Freud, who pretty much invented the damn thing, right? Then you had, Jung and Alexander and Maslow, and you had all these other guys who broke free of his assumptions. And I'm not blaming Freud. People say, oh, well, he got it wrong. Well, God damn it. He just created the damn thing. Give him a break. Okay. It's like, it's not going to get everything right away, So anyway, they had to break free. But you see what I'm saying? And then they might fall into their own assumptions and beliefs of which they don't break free. But to me, you break free of it all of it, everything. But that's, another story. So yes, we have this explanation, this explanation of psychology. And for us, it's pseudo-psychology because almost none of us are real psychologists, right? And even a lot of the psychologists are, okay, they're too, anyway, stuck in stuff. But we misunderstand, the psychology of stuff. Yeah. And then we got these explanations. Why? Well, because we're trying to explain things. And then it's nice if we hit on an explanation. And it's nice if we hit on an explanation that seems to work or seems to validate, be validated, right? But it doesn't make it true, And so we got to careful. It's like astrology. Did I get it right? Is that the one with Scorpio and Cancer? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Anyway, so see, that's an explanation, right? Or enneagrams, right? With Gurdjieff or whatever. I think he did some of that. Anyway, see, those are explanations that might work, and we can have many, many more. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there. I know there are lots of people out there that are explaining consciousness. You can't explain consciousness. Okay. I mean, hey, I'm a guy who chats a lot, right? I write fucking books. Okay. So, I'm saying I'm guilty too. Okay. See, but I keep in mind, you see, the explanation is never the experience. The explanation is not the truth. And I keep reinforcing that over and over and over again. Right. If I use a metaphor, it's a metaphor. It's not true. It's just a way to help the mind think about this. Yeah. See, but in any case, I know it's incredibly aggravating because we all want an explanation. But notice, an explanation, maybe it thrills you for a little while. Maybe you like it. Maybe it helps you, see things a certain way, but it never really changes much. You know what I'm saying? See, the explanation isn't the doing. Like I could explain to you in detail for hours or days what effortless power is and how to do it, how to be effortlessly powerful for real. I could do that. Does that mean you could do it? Not a chance in hell. Seriously. Say, you could take all that explanation. I could write an encyclopedia. You could read it and memorize the encyclopedia, and you still can't do it. And I pretty much guarantee you can't. You won't. See, because it demands doing it. If you do it, then maybe you go, oh, yeah, I see what he's saying here. See? But if you don't, you think you see what is being said, you see, but you don't have the reality of it. You don't have the experience of it, so-called. So there's a difference between explanation. That's always true, even in consciousness work. And that's why all the belief systems in the world none of them are true. None are true. Even the best of them aren't true. And there's a lot of stupid ones, okay? See, but even the best of them aren't true. They might be useful. They might be helpful to some people, right? But they're not true. It's like
even the explanation between explanation and doing is not the same as doing. The difference between explanation and doing.
Yeah, or getting it, grasping it for real. Yeah.
But we were talking about psychology a minute ago, and it made me wonder about sociology. And I'm curious whether you pay any attention to something like the way political and economic forces might encourage attitudes and behaviors and thought patterns that lead to unnecessary suffering so that they can subsequently sell us a putative solution to all of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you mean like drug companies telling you you're in
drug
pain?
Companies, politicians, all kind, anybody who directly profits from us not solving the problem of unnecessary suffering.
Well, yeah, sure. I'm sure people do that, but I would bet you money, not their kind of money, but I'll bet you money that see, even if they didn't do that, we'd still suffer. You know what I'm saying? And all the solutions they offer, or if they offered what you might consider more healthy, functional solutions, yeah, it probably changed the way people do things. Like, that happens, right? But it's still not going to stop the suffering. See, because it's still the same paradigm, it's still the same context, it's still the same world. See, so the whole sociology, sure, there's some, make observations, try, because why? That's the world in which we live. But you see, the thing that's not gotten is we invented that world. And we invented that world. It's not shoved down our throats. It is us. We invented it. You, I, and everybody else invented the damn thing. See, now there are a lot more others than me, okay, or you, see, and so it looks like it's really weighted on their side, right? It's like, oh, there's a lot more, okay, but still, it's still us. See, if we stopped inventing it, like for example, we invented language. Humans invented language. See, we acknowledge that. We acknowledge, through whatever science or just common sense, that at some point, is that common sense? Anyway, at some point, humans didn't have language, right? See, and we notice that animals don't have language, or a different kind of language in any case, yeah. And we invented a language, very, very sophisticated language that allows you and I to have this conversation. See, and we don't even appreciate the complexity of that language. And we certainly don't acknowledge that we created it, see, between us, and we make it a reality. And we live in that reality. See? We take it for granted. And we live in that reality. And we find it quite useful. You see, right? It's all language stuff. But that doesn't make it true. See, that doesn't make it any less an invention. And that's the same thing with society, or the social stuff you're talking about, or the world of survival and being a self and all that. Yeah, it's not true. None of it is true. And that's really hard for people to take. And moreover, it seems to me, they don't care, because they care about important things like sending my kids to school, and do I have a job, and breathing. Okay, good. Those are important things, you see.
There are a lot of interesting distinctions made in this book. One of the ones I'm interested in hearing you talk a little bit more about is the distinction between experiencing something for itself and experiencing it for me.
Okay. I did that in that book? Okay.
Yes, you did.
Okay. I did it not knowing a lot. So in any case, the simple version is once again, if you become conscious to some degree of what it is you're doing, you can begin to grasp that you are interpreting things and you're relating everything you experience to you. Everything. I am related to you right now. See? I am your guest on your show, in your podcast, etc. Right? And so that your feelings and thinking and judgment and how you relate to that is your doing. You see? And everything, a pencil is related to you. The microphone is related to you. Say, what is it? It's a microphone. What's it used for? I speak into it so that it makes sound and I can, whatever, make a living or do a podcast or something like that. See? And you see the microphone as that. Then you consider, does the microphone see itself as that? See? And no, the microphone doesn't give a shit about the word microphone or the function of being a microphone. It's just this thing, an object, say, without good or bad, without morality, without social communities, without relationship to you, all by itself, so to speak. See, like all your judgments are gone, your interpretations are gone, your reactions are gone. You see, your opinions, your past associations, its function, its name, all that, its use, its value, gone. Because all of what I just mentioned is for me, not for it. See, it's not for it. It's for me. You see? And, people don't get that. They think they're simply observing something as it is. And so it takes a little work. It doesn't take that much work, but it takes a little work. You can get it for itself. And when you get it for itself, it changes your relationship to it. It frees all that other stuff. You're not at the effect of it the same way at all. You see? It frees you of all that stuff. And so kind of in the suffering domain, whenever you're experiencing something for itself, you don't suffer.
What about the distinction between being complete and completion, or the capacity for completing that comes up in a couple of spots in the book?
Yeah, most people. Well, let me go before we go down that road. Let me bring up the rabbit, because as you know, the rabbit is the star of my book. Not Bugs Bunny; he's a wise ass. But the rabbits. We have a lot of rabbits here. I live in a forest, and you see, when we were talking about is and isn't, and the suffering isn't. You notice. You take a look. Watch the rabbit. Watch the rabbit. Even in your mind, just try to remember or imagine what the life of a rabbit is kind of like. See, and you can see the rabbit doesn't have a huge amount of stuff that humans have, right? What is that huge amount of stuff that humans have? That's pretty much the suffering shit. You see what I'm saying? The rabbit doesn't do the isn't. He doesn't do the isn't for the most part. He just arrives eating grass. He's hopping. He's looking. He's just ising. He's living in that world. And now, if you yourself, or your audience, simply shifts to the state, if you like, of being a rabbit, like being a human, period. Sort of like Garden of Eden before the what do you call that? The apple. But just being even rabbit, you can see, wow, all this stuff. So anything that's not rabbit, throw it away. Now, you and I are not going to do that because we're going to do it like a meditation. We can do it like a meditation, right? You can do it for a period of time. And I recommend it like a meditation. So you do it for a period of time. And then it's like helps really clear stuff up. See? And you will calm down and be happier for it. That's a little psychology there. and but your it gets rid of all that stuff. But you and I are going to still live in this social world, language like that. And then we have to recognize the activities of mind that we do that cause suffering and the activities of mind that do not. And there's a big explanation in the book about that you might have read, but so I call it conceptual activity versus conceptual action. And there's a long distinction there. But the easy way to go about it is the rabbit. Now you talk about being complete. Okay, cool. Most people, as far as I can tell, don't feel complete. I mean, as far as I can tell, almost everybody, right? Everybody on the planet does not feel complete. What do I mean by that? I mean, they feel like something's missing or something's broken in them, often deep down, even if they deny it. See, and the denial, kind of like Shakespeare's, protest too much thing, you see, is often based on the fact that they really do think they're worthless or broken or something, you see? Like existentially, like at a base. One reason is because you're ignorant, that you don't know, and that you've made into a wrong. See? That's going to fuck you up. Okay. See? But read my book on not knowing. See, and I'll go into that. Okay. See? Anyway, what that's about. But in any case, so you're following so far. So incomplete. I'm not completely happy. I didn't get out of life what I want to get out of life. Blah, blah, blah. And there's often, something out there, some attainment I have to grab and blah, 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 and then I'll be happy. Well, you're fucked up because, and everybody has that. Okay. And then I'll be happy. Everybody's searching for happiness, but they don't know really what it is. Okay. And they think some circumstance or some achievement or some state is going to make them happy. And every once in a while, right? I mean, you eat a great meal and you go, oh, that was tasty. I liked it. I'm feeling happy, or you meditate and you get calm by the babbling brook and you go, oh, I'm feeling really calm and I'm kind of happy and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. And we experience these moments. But as a person, you see, those are conditional. You see what I'm saying? They're obviously conditional. See? They're based on the conditions, you see, the meditation, the babbling brook, the food, whatever it is, circumstance. And happiness cannot be circumstantially derived. If it's circumstantially derived, you're guaranteed not to be happy. You will have ups and downs, right? Everybody has ups and downs, but at the root, you see, you will not be happy because you still feel like something's incomplete, something's missing, see? And that's a bit longer story. But when I say you have to get, you are. And there's nothing wrong with you. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. See? Now, immediately that tends to go to our egos, right? Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I like that idea. Nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. I'm okay. Nice boy. You see? And that's not really the way I mean it. See? That's just soothing, you. And everybody wants to be soothed and loved, and I understand. See? But I mean, really, for real, existentially, there's nothing wrong with you. Your existence is not wrong. It cannot be wrong. So you cannot be wrong. Yeah. Anyway, more enlightenment. Okay. And so you get that, right? You can't, and then you can be complete. You see, by getting no, there is nowhere to go, nothing to do. I don't need to achieve anything. There's nothing wrong. You see, I'm okay. It's like my other example in the book of the three-legged dog. Yeah. See, and you've probably seen a three-legged dog. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pretty much everybody's seen a three-legged dog. I just on a walk in, where was I? Oh, Lake Tahoe. And we're on a walk and here comes a three-legged dog. And for some reason, it's interesting. And the dog was happy. I mean, happy, no sense of disturbance whatsoever because he didn't have a fucking leg. You and I would be moaning that, we'd have PTSD and be depressed and shit because they didn't have a leg. Right? Dog? No. He's just as happy as every other dog. And in my experience, every time I've seen a three-legged dog, they're happier They're happier. I don't know what it is. Maybe less weight. I don't know. But they're always like, ah, like they're just happy little fucks, right? And they don't have a leg. See, so, but you and I, if we are broken and emotionally broken, mentally broken, our being we feel is broken or missing. Now we're upset and depressed and unhappy and blah, 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 and incomplete. See? No. If nothing else, be like the free-legged dog. If it's true that you're worthless, great, be worthless. Hey, I'm worthless. This is fun stuff, like, whatever. Hey, be like the free-legged dog, see, whatever. And the fact is, you're not worthless. You can grasp that, but see, if as long as you, whatever, attached to the leg, still.
Do you think your apprentices and people you work with get more from your commentary or more from your presence?
Whoa. Never thought about it. Okay. So I don't have a ready answer. What is the distinction you're looking at there that you would like to draw out?
Between, so for example, say a person were to never meet you, never interact with you, but learn from your books, and someone else were to come and sit with you, but never listen to you. Which one of them would be more informed by your understanding?
I really couldn't say. I know that when they sit with me and I can talk and they can talk, that's it's heads and shoulders over just reading a book. Because reading a book, you read the book with your own mind. Not much choice in that. And that's why, like say in the book of not knowing, you read that damn thing and it's 600 pages, for Christ's sake. That's a lot of not knowing. And you read it and then you read it again. And people have testified this for decades now. When you read it again, you hear a completely different book. So you'll hear the book differently than you did the first time or the second time or the third time or the fourth time, because each time you're grasping something you didn't grasp before, and you become a little bit more conscious, you have some insights, whatever. Say you start hearing and seeing distinctions made in the book you missed before because you couldn't grasp them before. Your mind just like, you can't grasp them. You don't know that you don't grasp them. Say you don't do. And then when you read it again, you're reading it from that, say, increased consciousness, and so you see, stuff you didn't see before. See, but it's like with in the old school I had in California, we'd record stuff. Well, they recorded everything, and sometimes, like in having an apprentice, you see, or no, scratch. So there'll be something like in a recording, right? And you're listening to it. This might have happened to you, right? You're listening to something, and then you sort of wake up a little later, and you hear it, and you go, oh, I missed something here, right? They were going on, but I missed it. See? Now, the fun thing is you go back and do it, and often the same thing happens. You see? I know, we've tested it. See? The same thing happened. You missed the same subject you missed before. Think somehow your mind can hear what's being said and block it. It's like, like not hear it. Say, I don't want to hear this or something, whatever. I don't know what that is about, right? See, but in any case, so imagine that same kind of dynamic. You're reading the book. There's stuff you're just not going to hear or see, not even recognize, you see. And that's why doing it more often. See, so now, but in any case, you see, it's your own mind. But with me, you get confrontation. Say, you get me to say, no, you're wrong. Okay. See, you don't get that when you read a book, right? Book doesn't say, no, you're wrong. You're misunderstanding this. Okay. Yeah. Stupid. That's why books are so nice. Yeah, see, but I'm not. See, but you get the conversation, the dialogue. I get to understand your thinking to some degree, because that's my job. See, and then when I understand your thinking, see, and we work on together, See, and I say, I go, okay, now I take that thinking and move it toward what the experience is I'm trying to communicate. See, yeah, and that's very different than you can ever get from a book. So I'd say my presence is far more valuable. But just sitting there, so what?
Yeah.
Animation?
So what I'm hearing, books okay, rereading is better than reading. Questioning and confronting and working together is better even than rereading, and it's not really possible to gauge the actual effect of the simple presence of a being.
Well, I can't do it. I mean, some people we hang with. Some people seem different, and you're with them, and you go, even if they don't speak, right? You go, there's something I'm feeling different about because they somehow are different, and you're feeling something different. I don't know that if that transforms anything or increases your consciousness. Maybe it invites you to consider what that is. Yeah. But I'm not into this what do you call that? Transference thing.
Transmission.
Transmission. That's it. Transmission. Yeah. In the martial arts, sometimes they have that. I'm getting the transmission. I say bullshit. You got to do it. You got to get it for real. You can't just imagine it. And while we're on the subject, because we're not, you were talking about chemicals. So, and there's lots of people who think that the drugs like the toad juice or LSD or psilocybin or whatever that can increase consciousness. Now, I know I come from the late 60s, early 70s as a young man from Berkeley, California. You're too young to know what was happening back then, but there was a lot happening back then. Okay. And that was the motherlode of a lot of stuff. That's where the hippies were created. That's where kind of the spiritual movement in this country was created. The whole, Indian thing, that's the drugs, definitely created there. Timothy Leary and all this. And there's a lot of work. Did a lot of work along with protesting the Vietnam War and all that shit, right? So in any case, we had a distinction of drugs that were just recreational, drugs that were bad, like heroin, that fuck people up, and consciousness raising drugs. You see, we had those distinctions. And so I did a lot of consciousness raising drugs. Yeah. Did it raise my consciousness? No. Did it kick ass? Yes. Especially back then, because we didn't know the amounts to take. And LSD was huge amounts, 900 mics a barrel bomb. Take 2 of those. See me in the morning. I mean, seriously, it's like off the charts stuff. So I did that. Did it increase consciousness? No. See, consciousness is about direct consciousness, a direct encounter with what's true. Drugs change the chemistry of your brain. The chemistry of your brain does not encounter what's true. It changes states. It changes reactions, etc. Right? So it's the chemistry of your brain. That's a chemical reaction. That's not an insight. Could you have an insight while you're on a drug? Sure, of course. You could, But if it's, again, circumstantially derived, if it's dependent on the drug, it's gone as soon as the drug's gone, right? If you've done drugs, okay, yeah, I did drugs, and now what? You're still the same schluck. You just went, wow, blew my mind. Okay, good. Nice, nice. You see? Or this new thing, I can't remember what's the real name, the toad juice. I call it toad juice. DM something, DMC.
Yeah, DMT, and a couple of variations of that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. And, it seems to be an impressive drug, you see. But you get your ass kicked. You say, I see, wonderful things. I'm one with the universe, etc., whatever it is. And then you're the same schluck afterwards. Okay.
So anyway, there seems to be a difference between state-based insights and insights into how to have insights. because this book ends with a sort of praise of questioning as a way of life. And it seems like questioning is based on having insights into how to have insights rather than just having the insights that your experiences brought to you. Does that sound true?
Sure. Sounds good. Yeah, we do some places, we do stuff like learning how to learn. You know, in the very early days, I'm talking my early 20s and late 20s. I really did. I thought, because I had these huge, you know, breakthroughs, and I thought I could tell somebody and they get it. They like I go and whisper in their ear. And I tried, they didn't. I tried some more, they didn't. And that's how come I have the profession I got now today. You see, it's simply because they wouldn't get it. You know, I was never intending to do this for a living. See, but I realized, wow, it's a lot of work to do to try to get them to get it, right? And anyway, and then one of the reasons I created the apprentices in the old days, I'm talking old days, and most of that was Marshall, is that I had stuff I wanted to teach them, and I realized they weren't getting it. See, they're not really getting it. See, and how do I know they're getting it? If they get it, they're skillful. See, I can see it. I can see them anyway. So I embarked on trying to work with them, learning how to really hear what I'm saying, learning how to learn, you see, and stuff like that, right? And that worked. You know, they were able to learn more. And then I realized, well, that was more important to them than the stuff I had to teach them. You know, see, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. You know, so yeah, no, that's good stuff.
Well, I'm out of questions. Anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, nope. Yeah, we do a lot of good work here. Unfortunately, a lot of it is quite advanced for people, you know. And so I've got guys that are, you know, that I'm instructing to simplify stuff, because that's really not my job. You know, my job is to, again, tell the truth as best I can, you know, try to get it across to people. See, but for people, we got to start with some basics, say, real basic stuff. And for me, what I think is basic, most people don't. Okay. Most people go, what are you talking about? You know, it's like, what the fuck? So that'd be useful. So they're trying to work on that, you know, get that out there. Because I'm going to die pretty soon, you know. Come on, I'm an old guy. So, you know, I want the work to precede me. It's kind of like my child. Anyway, so yeah, I would recommend people do the workshops. I really would. Sure. It makes such a difference. You know, reading the books is one thing, but you know, doing the workshop, you get a lot of this shit, and you get like exercises, you know, and working on one subject at a time, not just all over the place, right? See, until you get it, see, and then another and another, and building and whatnot. You say it makes a big difference over time, you know. Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate the style and the humor and the distinction making that you bring to all of this, because it definitely could be handled in other ways. I'm really enjoying the way you're bringing this forward.
Great. Good. Well, good job.
All right, good. Maybe we'll come up with an excuse to talk again sometime. Good getting to know you,
All right. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay. Cheers, man.